This episode of this Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey is brought to you by energy healer Jean Border's personal, powerful transformation program. Know you're leaving money on the table, but can't figure out how to bring it in? Need to double your productivity and profitability? Need an extra push to get things moving in the right direction? Visit www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com/transformation now and apply for a business consultation with Jean. Welcome to the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey, where we take out your emotional baggage and heal your emotional body so you get to enjoy the success you desire and deserve. Prepare to feel a sense of relief and empowerment as we get rid of the baggage you've been carrying that's held up your business success up until now. Be sure to visit our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, lean in, get comfortable, and prepare to take off.
Hello, everyone. This is Jean Border, your host with the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey. And I have a very unique special guest this week. This is Sina with Keymaker Services. Hi, how are you? So glad to meet you.
I'm well. It's such a pleasure to meet you as well.
So talk to me about what Keymaker Services does. I find this very interesting.
So Keymaker Services, we work with companies and professionals to understand the benefits of being aware of our nervous system. So neurodiversity awareness, we include DEI work, but also coupled with productivity that as a result boosts revenue and increases the amount of engagement for employees and then retention. A lot of the skills that we hone in on actually are skills for your nervous system. So breath work, tapping, being aware of what are those environments that push you into that fight or flight, and how can we be proactive with that so it doesn't impact your productivity in a negative way. So it's a really unique way of approaching when we talk productivity. And when I bring it up with companies, they quickly get really interested in this because it's cerebral. This is our brain. It impacts our relationships, whether that's at work and at home. And really, ultimately, business is relationships, especially for those of us that are small businesses or solo entrepreneurs. And getting on that entrepreneur, I can go off on a mini tangent there, is that entrepreneurs are neurodiverse. There is actually a study that shows that in a term, it's called neural entrepreneurialism. There's areas of the brain that have more connections and are more active in a brain of an entrepreneur. And so understanding that about yourself really gives you a superpower of how you run your business and how you run your life, so that there's balance and that you're able to tap into those superpowers to take your business to the next level.
That's really cool. I've never heard about that study, but that's really cool. So when you go into a business, do you typically go into businesses that are already into what I'm going to call energy work, the tapping, the breath work, things that are all about balancing, bringing your body back into balance to impact your personal life, your business decisions, your business growth? Mm-hmm. Are they new to this world, or do they really already know what it is before they bring you in?
I love it when they already know what it is, because then I don't get that look like, Stina, that's a little hokey. But when they are aware of these, it makes we skip over many steps where they're already practicing it. They just don't know how to connect it to their work and the tasks that they're doing. For those that are not aware of it, it's a lot of just demonstrating, having them try it out, and then seeing the effects on their nervous system and then integrating it. So, and really, for those folks that are not in that space of maybe they're more spiritual and more in tune with themselves and they're using these strategies, it's linking it to science. I can bring out all the different science reports that say, see, this is what this does. I mean, breath work is used in the Marines, for heaven's sakes. And that's not, I wouldn't say that is a space that I would have guessed it be. But the companies that are in the healing space, it's a natural glide into this practice of these tools and strategies, because they already have the introduction to it. They might be using different terms than I do, but it's the same. And ultimately we don't care what it's called as long as it gets you what you need and it's balanced and feeds into supporting your regulation of your nervous system so that you can make those decisions. You can think clearly, you can think creatively and innovatively for your company.
So what type of situations might bring a company official to you?
Mm-hmm. A lot of times it is the feeling of being stuck or not knowing, hey, I'm doing all the things that a business needs to do, but it's not moving forward into that growth that I want, or the question of saying, hey, I'm ready to grow. I need to hire more people or different people. And I asked them the question in that moment of, but what if you were to teach them these strategies? You'd get more out of your employees. You'd get more out of yourself, and you wouldn't then have to take on that additional cost. So it's a real asset, these skills, for companies, especially small businesses where, money is tight. And when you're thinking of growing, now what are your options? You want to look at what you already have established and make sure that you have put everything into it, all of your soul. You need to put the gas in the car and change the oil before you move on and say, you know what, I need a new car. So that definitely is something that comes up, and I love when it happens, because it's an opportunity to really still take the core of what you've started and make it and polish it up before you add in something else. Because when we start adding so many different things, we don't really know what works. And we may not even get to the result that we're looking for.
So when these company, I'm going to call them company officials. I'm not sure what you call them, just clients, whatever. When they come to you, how do you start them out? What is the first thing you look at to see where improvement might help them with productivity or with profit margin?
Yeah. So the first thing I do is I ask them to tell me their story. And just give me a dump of everything that's going on for you. What's going well? What are your struggles? What are things that you're stressed about? And that's more like a qualitative, taking in some data. And then we do some self-assessments, checklists, and they're focused mainly on executive functioning skills. So that's attention management, emotional management, social skills, working memory, all these things that are fed through executive functioning skills. And they're the glue when you have the idea, coming from the idea to actually making it come to fruition. And most of the time, there are areas that are really strong, and I like to call those superpowers, and we want to keep those up. And there are areas that are lower that can be supplemented or can be supported by the superpower, or can be coupled with somebody else that's their superpower, or maybe an accommodation or intervention that you're going to do for yourself. So once we have that data, I also like to do some observation of just how are the interactions within the team, or if it's a solo, how are you working through your day? How are you scheduling it? What comes to mind immediately as we talk about time management, time awareness. Most of us have a slightly different awareness of time than when time is actually passing. So if I say, it's been 5 minutes, my feeling of 5 minutes is not typically 5 minutes. I know my ratio is slightly more than that. When 8 to 10 minutes pass, I feel like in my body, it's been 5 minutes. And so I use that as a scheduling tool. So when I think a task is going to take me 30 minutes, then I schedule it with that ratio so that I am able to complete the task rather than always rushing, always not getting something done. The other piece is to really start charting and looking at what times of day is the individual able to focus their attention the most and feels more energized? And when are they feeling more distracted and more lethargic? The times that are the power times, the block times, you want to do analysis, creative time. You want to really keep that time holy. You don't put meetings in there. You put meetings in the other times, because meetings are naturally engaging. You're talking back and forth. You're doing things with others. And that way you're still accomplishing a lot more. Because if you had it flipped and you got to that lethargic, low energy, low focus time, and you were trying to do those same tasks, you wouldn't be completing them, at least not as efficiently or as quickly.
Time management is huge. And it's very interesting to me that you said that your body associates 5 minutes with 8 minutes of real time. That's a really cool thing to measure, because I've never even looked at myself that way to see how I measure time.
Exactly.
But I know that after a certain amount of time, my brain gets tired and I have to take a break when I'm really focusing on high brain power tasks, if you will.
Yeah.
But I've never actually measured how long do I think 5 minutes really takes. That's a powerful concept. I really like that.
The other piece too that's really important is to know your reinforcers. Know what are the experiences that give you those hits of dopamine and serotonin, because that's your reward system. So if there's something you have to do that you're avoiding, this takes a lot of mental energy. What are you going to tack onto that so that your brain starts associating, if I do this, then I get this. If I do this, then I get this.
That's cool too.
You're rewarding yourself.
Yeah, the whole gamification deal with yourself. That's a really cool idea. So what energy techniques do you utilize a lot? You mentioned tapping and breath work. Are those your main go-tos?
So anything that can reset the nervous system, can bring it back to fresh. I always love integrating, doing some sort of, if you can't meditate on your own, do a lead meditation. There's many of them out there that you can play on your phone. And then another idea is to use sensory, like hot and cold. You can just run your hands under the water, hot, cold, or go take a shower. Because it's going to reset that nervous system so that if you're in this, I'm tired or I'm feeling overwhelmed, it's going to bring that down for you. Let me see. So tapping, breath work, lots of self-talk. You've got to be able to use self-talk to take when those intrusive thoughts come in, and actually talking yourself back to, this is the reality. This is what's going to happen. Walks, and definitely getting into nature. If you can get outside during your day is important. We've seen that over and over again, especially I work a lot with folks that have ADHD or some sort of neurodiversity. And we know that it's very grounding and helpful for the brain to even get to a park if you're in a city, or walk outside, buy some water, something. You don't have to make it something like a hike or a day-long camping trip, but some exposure to feel that ground underneath you and to see the outside world.
So are these techniques you use when you're stressed or when you need, talk to me more about when you would recommend certain activities for people to utilize?
So when I'm working with my clients, I talk about creating a self-intervention toolbox, and that those interventions need to be in 3 different categories. One is environmental, one is educative, and then one is more of like a responsive consequence, positive or negative. And you want to be in the proactive, which is more of environment and educative first and foremost. And then if you find the ones that, like breath work, you can do that proactively. I actually just had a conversation this morning with a client of, we know that when you're in that moment, you can do this, but it would be better if you've already done that early in the day. You've taken a moment to meditate. You've done your breath work or your tapping. And then when you're in the moment that you need it reactively, it's already been there. You've already kind of filled your cup part of the way. And then when you've lost them through that interaction or through that activity of the day that maybe took away because of stress, you're just filling up a little bit rather than the whole glass. So
do you actually teach these techniques then to your clients?
Absolutely. I just did a demonstration this morning on camera. I said, okay, now hold your hand up and you're going to tap on here. You say it's going to be okay. Even though didn't go as planned, I've got this. These things really, they seem to some that haven't done it silly, but they work.
And there's science behind it too.
Right. There's science behind it and it works. And to me, I just say, these are things you can do it under the table if you don't want anybody to see it. But
tapping is a really good one for that, because people play with their face all the time. They're always just sitting around when they're bored, doing little things, and nobody would realize that you're actually doing something to calm your nervous system, to reset your nervous system, right?
Mm-hmm. And then even that sternum rub. I mean, there, and then also I encourage, if there's things like repetitive behaviors, things that you're doing, as long as they're not harmful to you, things like, twitching your leg. I do that all the time. Or stretching. That's your body taking the natural course of regulation. So normalize that and make it, say it's okay. You don't have to be sitting completely still. If you need to get up and move, you need to do I have to get up from my desk and I go do a vinyasa and come back. These are things that are very natural, and we don't normalize them as much as I think would be helpful in the workplace.
And another thing that I think is really interesting is that our brain needs a break. Every half hour, just take a break. Walk around your desk, run around your desk. I mean, walk down the hall, get a drink of water, come back, and then your brain has a chance to calm down, reset. You can go back to the same task or you can go to something else. But the longer you work, the less productive you are, because your brain gets stressed, just like any other part of your body, right? So give it a short break and come back refreshed.
Yep. And I call those download times, whereas if you can just let your brain flow, because all day long you're pushing thoughts. Nope, I can't do this right now. Nope, I can't do this right now. And then when you get to bed, what happens? They all come out. And now you can't sleep because you didn't allow that space. So if you take that download time to just let the thoughts come and put them in a file. Oh, this one goes here and this one goes there. Or just let them flow and think through them, play it out. If you're thinking about, well, what's going to happen at this dinner with my family, and what's going to happen with Aunt Susie, or this or that, just play it out. Maybe that will happen. Maybe it won't. Feel the emotions and then come back. But then you're not laying there at night, letting that take away from your sleep.
Because we live inside our heads. Most of us don't live in where we actually physically are. We live in whatever thoughts are going on inside our head, right? So whatever I believe to be true is true for me. If I think that dinner is going to be awful, then I played it out as being awful in my brain before we have the dinner, and it was actually fine, Right. Because knowing about it the night before and not being able to sleep when the next day it was fine, it's like, why did I put myself through that, right?
And then after experiences like that, which are great to have, because is to really register it, whether that's journaling or just noting for yourself, I had this prediction. It actually went this way, so that you have something to refer back to next time that happens. Well, remember, I had the same feeling about that time. It didn't go, so maybe there's a different possibility.
And I'm big on possibilities. If you get so focused on one outcome, look at what you missed out on, because there were so many other possibilities.
Yeah.
For that circumstance.
Loss of connection, you're not present, you're not enjoying that food, not learning, you're not gaining or anything either, because you're just looking for the attack. What's going to go wrong?
So when people work with you, what's the time frame on that? Does that vary by client, or do you have a set time frame that you like to work within? How does that work?
It does vary by client. I will say we're talking about human behavior. We're talking about making changes that have pathways and not have things that have been established for a long time, most of the time. And so, a real quick Band-Aid would be 3 months. That's really, and that's not, so really it's got to be 6, 12. Right now I'm pushing for, especially with companies, is that you plan on giving it 1 year to 3 years, so that that it's really part of the way you work and ingrained. And then otherwise it's just a big dump of information, not all that you're going to be able to integrate. You might understand conceptually, but applying and keeping it, retaining it, yeah.
Because you have to make course corrections as you go, right? You see, this is working, but these people don't get that concept, so let's try this instead. And so these little course corrections eventually get you where you want to go, right? It's all a journey. It's not like you start here and you get to there and you're done. It's like, no, what do I really want? And am I getting the results that I wanted? Or do I need to course correct a little bit?
Exactly. And acknowledging that I like to call them, there's lapses versus relapses. To old behaviors or ways of doing things. Lapses are great. That's your opportunity to recognize this is my value and to come back on your plan, whether it's the same way or an alternative way. Relapses means you just went back to before you started and you're sticking there. So, and I see that I follow kind of like the phases of change protocol where we start with awareness, then you work on desire, you give knowledge, and then ability to apply, and then there's the reinforcement and realignment. And that's the most important step. And that it needs to be included because it's going forwards for the rest of your life. You're always going to have a moment where you step off the track that you had laid.
And then you make a course correction and you get back on your journey.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Unfortunately, we're coming near the end of our time together. But I want to thank you for being here. And you do have a free gift for our listeners, and that information will be down below. There'll be a link for everyone who's fascinated with this stuff, like obviously I am. Keymaker Services is the name of the company. I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Take care.
And thanks to our listeners. This is Jean Border, your host of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey. Until next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey, where we take out your emotional baggage and heal your emotional body so you get to enjoy the success you desire and deserve. Remember to visit our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey.